Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of October. Can you believe it? I hope you will. I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you today. Do I have anything to tell you? There will be an extended at the end of this if you're interested in going a little bit deeper. That's the first link in the description box. The second is the 6-month overview for each of the signs that I did back in July. We are obviously more than a third of the way through that period now, so I have knocked down the prices accordingly. I would like for people to hear what is in those. There was a strong emphasis on personal work, and there was a lot coming out, specifically for each of the signs to deal with. So, there's the thing. And what else? Mercury retrograde. We are in Mercury retrograde as we speak. Now, I've come across some information in the last couple of days with regard to this particular Mercury retrograde and why it is slightly different to the ones that have preceded it this year. I actually barely noticed them, I think, the other ones this year, but as soon as the shadow period started, shit just started to cock up for me. Get this knot out of my hair. So I did a bit of digging, and it turns out it is slightly different. So the usual rules of Mercury retrograde apply in so much as we are looking to finish things rather than start things. If you've got uncompleted projects, things that you've already made some sort of start on, this is a good time to finish them off. It is not a good time to start new things, and to wit things like contracts and stuff like that. If you can possibly avoid signing them, then that would be a good move at this time. If you can't, and for there are many reasons why you wouldn't be able to put it off, then make sure that you double check, triple check, get several pairs of eyes on it, and make sure that you're signing up for what you think you are. You can also expect things like travel disruptions and communication mishaps too, whether via technology. Technology tends to cock up quite well during this time. That's been my experience anyway. But you may find yourself talking at cross purposes to people. Now, I am planning to do a video on this particular Mercury retrograde that I'm going to release for the patrons in due course, hopefully in the next couple of days, because there were some things that came out that seemed to tally very strongly with what was coming out in the 6-month overviews, and I was actually completely unaware of this until yesterday when I came across this information. So patrons, keep a lookout for that, because it will be coming up in the next couple of days. Right, that's enough of that. Let's get some cards. I have 3 cards for Cancer, please. There we go. The very first one is Page of Wands in your recent past. What about current energy for Cancer, please? Thank you. We have here, I cannot even pick it up. We have the 4 of Swords. Now, as I've picked it up, it's in the reverse, and I don't know if it's landed that way, but we'll see. We'll be able to tell from the clarifying cards. Let's get one more card. What's coming towards Cancer, please? Thank you. We have the Knight of Wands. That's Sagittarian energy there. Very brisk. Interestingly. Now I'm looking at these cards, I think that the 4 of Swords is supposed to be in the reverse. We've got the 2 of Swords at the bottom of the deck here, followed by the Ace of Swords, and it feels to me that at the moment you are you need to make a decision about something, but for whatever reason you are not. Now, if this is because you're not quite sure how you feel about the situation itself, or either of the options, or any of the options that are available to you at this time, I would say just sit with it for now, because I think that the answer is going to come to you. I think things are going to become very much clearer in the next few weeks, because the 2 of Swords is followed by the Ace of Swords right there. There's the truth right there. There's the clarity that you are seeking. There's the new insights into stuff. And so if you feel like you're stagnating in any particular way, if you're sitting on this decision that you kind of feel like you need to make, maybe sometimes we feel like we need to do something and we're not actually quite sure what it is that we're supposed to do. It's almost like the decision itself has not yet presented to us, but there's this feeling of being a bit stayed, a little bit like I need to change something, but I don't know quite what it is yet. Oh, let's get some clarifiers. Yeah. Use you. Some more of that in there before I close the window. Tell me about the Page of Wands, please. Page of Wands. We have the Queen of Swords, Libra energy. Page of Wands. And the Eight of Cups in reverse. We got the Four of Swords in reverse, please. Ooh. We have the Seven of Swords in reverse. Four of Swords in reverse. And the Devil in reverse. Good Lord. This is a lot of reversals. They're all good though, interestingly. Tell me about the Knight of Wands. King of Pentacles, Taurus. And the Ten of Pentacles. So, there are a lot of characters at play here for you. We've got the Seven of Wands and we've got the Five of Pentacles with the Five of Swords here. Does feel like there's something going on with you. And at this point, I'm not even sure if it's with you or whether it's people around you. Like I said, there's an awful lot of characters on the table here. But we have this card of being defensive or protective, and there's a difference between the two. We have this Five of Pentacles and we have the Five of Swords too. Now, there's Aquarian Insight, when she was on YouTube, used to refer to any card numbered 5 as the agents of chaos, and there's something in that, and there's a lot in that actually, because 5 speak about that great instability. If 4s are foundational level cards, it's where you're building things, and the 5 is when that shit just gets blown up, and at the time it can seem incomprehensible as to why that has happened, but it's a chance to refine and hone and learn more things, you know. Bring more wisdom to the situation. It's, you know, if everything was perfect in the 4, there would be no motivation to move on from that point. And I think that this is important to underline here. It's not that you're not allowed to, you know, just sit in the moment and enjoy it. No, that is, you know, encouraged at all points. But growth doesn't come from staying where everything is easy and everything just works and everything is happy. You know, ultimately, big growth tends to come from the ways in which we are made to be uncomfortable. Now, it's definitely uncomfortable energy there. You know, this Five of Pentacles speaks about poverty. It speaks about lack. It sometimes talks about being isolated, and this Five of Swords is a very tricksy little character here. You know, we've got 2 people walking away, and they've cut their losses here. The person in the foreground looks to me as if they've got a very smug expression on their face, like they have won. But it's definitely a Pyrrhic victory. Because I just heard for some of you, somebody is really starting to show their true colours. Where that's coming from. But that would certainly suggest that that's why you are in a position of feeling like you need to shut this fucking window, defend yourself at this time, right? So, whew, very hot. I have to say, when I did the meditation for you before I started before I even started the video recording and stuff, I had such a strong third eye activation. It actually felt like it was trying to crawl off my head, and I don't think that was for me. I think that was for you. It seems to me like, although I'm not having any cards that speak specifically of this just yet, there are things that are hidden that are coming to light. And if you are not making a decision, or you don't know what this decision is, but you feel like there's this need for change, it's because you don't have all of the information yet, right? Insufficient data for a meaningful response as things stand right now. But clarity is coming. So we have this Page of Wands here. And, you know, as I often say, it's a precursor to movement. It's a precursor to action. You know, the end result here that the Page of Wands is going for is the creation of a campfire, right? But there's no point in setting fire to, you know, fresh air. You can't set fire to fresh air. You have to have the kindling. You have to have the wood. And so the page here is engaged in the act of pulling all of these things together, ready for the final result of creating this campfire, right? And you've got to gather up all the sticks. You've got to kind of set them up, you know, kindling in the middle, get them all piled up and whatnot. and then set light to it, right? The final action isn't yet ready to occur. This is very much preparatory stage. We have the Queen of Swords and we have the Ace of Cups here. Now, the Queen of Swords is Libran energy, and it could be that this has involved a Libra for you, but we can't, you know, ignore the fact that we are now in Libra season, and perhaps this is something that has occurred during this time, right? But the Queen of Swords is often about making difficult decisions that don't involve emotion so much as they would for, say, you know, the King and Queen of Cups, or even the Wand suit, you know, to be fair. So she's associated with discernment. She's associated with a fairly dispassionate look at the facts of the matter, right? So this very, very discerning energy here, looking at going back to something, right? The Eight of Cups is walking away from something. The Eight of Cups is coming back. I would like to pull one more card for that because I'm kind of nosy, you know. And it could well be that you're looking at weighing up the pros and the cons to going back to a situation that you have previously left behind, right? You can't come back to something if you haven't left it in the first place. It would just be arriving at a thing, right? Tell me why this Cups is here. We've got the Ten of Cups. And we've got the Ten of Swords. Ooh. That's the one that I want. And we've got the King of Swords. So we've got the we've got the Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck here. My card of home, interestingly enough. But all of these clarifiers are flanked on either side by the Queen of Swords and the King of Swords. Right, the pinnacle of the sword suit, both of them dealing with the need to make decisions. You know, both of the cards are associated with decision making very, very strongly, but also having good judgment, right? Proper assessment of the facts. Now, this Ten of Cups makes an awful lot of sense, and so does the Ten of Swords, because it seems to me like there's a contemplation of going back to a situation that contained both great joy and great pain, is the best way that I can put it. And being 10, both of these cards being 10, it is a situation that I feel has closed out in some way or another, right? You've definitely moved away from this situation, but something is wanting to come back. It's almost like a longing to go back. And maybe you are just doing a bit of investigation at this point. You know, remember I said that this page of wands was a precursor to movement. Well, maybe it's just like, oh, I'll just do a little bit of checking and see, you know, how the land lies with these things. I'm not committing myself to anything yet. You know, I'm just doing a little bit of work here. But it seems like a bit of a battle of heart over head at this point. Now, even if you're not planning on going back to something, or have not planned on going back to something, the fact that we're in retrograde energy, and that is specifically designed to bring up those things that require completion, and quite often that can be emotional. You know, what we've got here is the possibility of an old situation that you left behind, which contained great, you know, joy, but also great pain, and you left it for a reason. I'm just going to say that, Cancer. Kind of going back over it in your mind. Like, was it really as bad as I thought it was? Was it this? Was it that? Was it the other thing? You know, there isn't necessarily an indication that you are going back to it, but that you are revisiting it in some way or another, right? Now, your current energy is really, really interesting because every single card is inverted. It's very unusual. I always put my cards back straight, so when they come up in the inverted, I do pay attention. And we've got the Four of Swords. Now, this way around, it's about taking a break, right? It's resting. It follows on from the Four of Swords, from the Three of Swords, which, as we know, is, you know, great emotional pain. And it's about that time that we take to withdraw and process what has happened to us, you know, and then, you know, do a little bit of healing before we're ready to go back and, you know, rejoin the world. It's also my meditation card, and again, it's a card of kind of being a 4. It's a fundamental card of peace for me. Now, the fact that it's come up in the reverse doesn't mean that it's about switching the button from peace to war. So that in the GoldenEye film in James Bond, it used to be a thing between my late husband and I. Flick the switch from peace to war. Very, very silly. Anyway. But rather, it's a readiness to move out of this state of introversion, right? It speaks of action of some sort. If this is resting, then this is coming out of the need to rest and beginning to engage in some way or another. We've got the Seven of Swords and the Devil in reverse. Now, this is quite interesting because both of these cards are pretty toxic this way round. I mean, they do have different interpretations. There is no card in the tarot that is all good or all bad, and these two are no exception. But because of the way that they've come up and the fact that they've come up in the reverse, it speaks of it speaks of an understanding, right? The Seven of Swords in the upright speaks about deception. It speaks about deceit, and often it can speak about self-deception, self-deceit. You know, those narratives that we tell ourselves, the way we look back on things, in fact, you know, with rose-tinted glasses and whatnot. And, you know, you speak to anyone and everything, you know, the world was always better in their youth, and, you know, the youth of today, ooh, you know, all that sort of thing. We had respect in my day and stuff like that. It's like, you fucking didn't. No, you didn't. Teenagers have always existed, you know. Feral kids have always existed too. But it feels like the scales are dropping from your eyes about something. You know, the Four of Swords is that very peaceful, contemplative, meditative, mental action. You know, it's almost like sitting with, rather than, you know, rather than a kind of restless mental energy. It's about, okay, just sitting with this. And it's very much similar to this here, you know, it's like it's sitting with this, it's emotionally revisiting something, but from a very objective perspective. I don't see you being sucked into anything per se, any kind of self-deceit in terms of what you left behind. More, it's just like, yes, it was brilliant and it was shit in equal measure. We've all had fucking relationships where we can say that when it's good, it's really, really good, and when it's bad, it's fucking awful, right? And I like the fact that you've got these two court hierarchy cards flanking this. It's like there's no leaking of rose-tinted glass water coming out anywhere. But here, you're not deceiving yourself about anything, and you are not succumbing to old fears. You're choosing to do things differently. You're choosing to think differently. And I think choosing to act differently too. There's a change that's gone on here. And where the Two of Swords comes in, where you're not quite sure where to move forwards, I really do feel like it's because you are working with a different set of parameters now compared to what you have done before. You know, there was a very consistent way that you used to respond and react to different situations, and that doesn't apply anymore. So in some ways you're kind of flying without a net, because you don't quite know what your next move is going to be, because the parameters have now shifted. And it's like, well, where I would, you know, lose my rag, get snippy with someone, you know, kind of like nip at them with my crab claws, then go away and feel utterly dreadful about it, and, you know, and then try and make up for it and overdo that, even though I actually didn't have anything really that awful to make up for. It's different now, because the chains of codependence have been pulled up from around your neck and placed on the floor. You've still got the option to go back to that if you choose, but a mind stretched by a new idea rarely goes back to its original dimensions. And I think that now that you've seen this in yourself, it's always front and foremost in your mind when it's dealing with old situations. Yeah, like I said, Mercury retrograde is all about going over old ground and making sure you've done everything properly. And this is why it feels like it's kind of coming up for assessment. You know, you as you sit there now as older and wiser than you were, say, perhaps a year ago or 2 years ago. Well, almost certainly older, but wiser doesn't necessarily always follow, but it does in your case because of the work that you've been doing on yourself. It's almost like you don't have to hide away now, right? That's not the way that you protect yourself. It's not withdrawing, it's not hiding away. It is actually kind of facing down those things that you now know about yourself. You know, the devils that reside within. The way that they keep you trapped absolutely needs you to be rocking this kind of energy. And because you're not deceiving yourself anymore, because you are not taking the, short-term easy route of mental gymnastics to stay exactly where you are, the devil can't hold you still anymore. You won't let the devil hold you still anymore. Yeah, the devil. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Because that way, we've got 9 of Swords and 10 of Wands. Like, you know exactly what is down that road there, and you don't want it. Notice now that we have 3 10s on the table. These are all cards of culmination. They're cards of completion. And it would not surprise me to see. It might not come up in this reading, or it might come up in the Vimeo, or it might not be until November, but this feels very much like a consolidation period for you, Cancer. It seems like not only are you assessing your current situation, where you are right now, the people that surround you, the situations that you find yourself in, but you're drawing parallels with older situations too, and how you reacted there. Now you can follow the pattern. You can see the consequences and where it led you. And now you're kind of looking at how do I do it differently? What's a different path that I could take here? And it does feel to me like that's why you're not quite sure which way to go at this point. There are lots of options that are open to you, and there's a lot of backstory now for you to go through. I'm going to say that hindsight is 20/20, right? I look at this body of experience that you've built up and use it. I mean, that's what it's for. If you do this and go this way, that's the cycle that you end up back in. If you do this and you go this way, that's the cycle that you end up in. What are the things that you haven't done yet, Cancer? Because that indicates another direction, and I'm almost guaranteeing for you that what you haven't done in previous cycles is put yourself first, put all of your energy into you, and then had a look at what's left over, and then decided whether the person in front of you is actually worthy of receiving that or not. It feels to me like you're being kind of pushed towards that here, because there's a cycle ending here, and it's ending by your own hand all the way along, right? We don't have the World card here, we don't have the Death card, we don't have the Tower, we don't have any of those cards that are usually associated with endings. What we have are 10s, and these come by your hand, right? Or somebody else's, but definitely with the day-to-day behaviours of people. And so what I was going to say was, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Fool or the Magician, or we start seeing aces in the next few weeks. They might come out in the Vimeo reading, and they might not be until November, but there's definitely a tidying up and there's a consolidation going on here. Like, trust what you know, trust what you have experienced. And I think in some ways take the road less travelled, to be honest. So when we come to what's coming towards you in October, we have the Knight of Wands. Now, I should just point out before I go any further, we've got the Eight of Wands at the bottom of the deck. The Knight of Wands can sometimes be quite an opportunistic energy, right? It's something that comes in, you know, could be by way of a Sagittarius. That's an opportunity for you to follow here. But I don't think that that is the case here for you. It, for me, seems to be more about being able to analyze things on the fly and be here in the moment. Now, I said to you that I felt very strongly like clarity was coming. And I do feel that, not only with the Two of Swords, then followed by the Ace of Swords, but the fact that we go from the Page to the Knight here. It's a progression. So there's an uptick in movement. You know, we go from no movement to Knight of Wands, which is, you know, after the Knight of Swords, the fastest knight in the tarot. But there's a present energy. And almost a momentum building, to be honest, right? We've got this King of Pentacles and the Ten of Pentacles underneath here. These refer to material situations that are doing very fucking well for themselves. Thank you very much. We've got a 10 there, and I'm going to point out to you now, you've had all 4 10s appear in this reading. And we have the King of Pentacles. Now, if you want to grow 10 pentacles, what you want is a king or a queen to help you do that, right? So they're the pinnacles of the suit. They really have the wisdom and the experience of going through these cycles many, many times to know what works, right? A good formula. And there's an indication here that work that you have done up until this point, right? Whether it is on yourself and or money you've put away, whatever, you know, everybody jumps to money when we talk about pentacles. But the reality is, for me, that I see pentacles as energetic currency. So if you can invest it, it's a pentacle. So your time, your care, your effort, your money, your love, right? 4 of those 5 things are extremely important to Cancers. Okay? Time, care, effort, love. Your energy should be in there too, you know, just generally. A wiser way of investing your energy, your time, your care, those things that you have freely given to other people and never received back to the same degree that you've given them out, you know. It seems to me that you are working so much of this shit out, right? And your own personal stability now becomes the most important thing moving forwards. But this Knight of Wands, which is kind of opposite energy really to the Pentacles suit. Pentacles are very slow moving, you know, it takes time to build up that, whereas the Knight of Wands is very fast, you know, blink and you'll miss him. But he's always where the action is. He's always where the drama is. He's the one who's not going to miss the opportunity if it flashes up. And I'm trying to find the right way to put this. It's work that you have done on your own stability, in whatever sense that applies, is now a platform that you can jump off to do something a bit more spontaneous, right? A bit more present. Like I said, we've got this 8 of Wands at the bottom of the deck here, and it's followed by the Judgment card, right? So there will be swift movement in October, and there will be good decisions made by you. But it's, you know, these 8 of Wands coming in to land here. The point at which you need to make a decision, and it will be a big decision. You know, this is not just like, shall I go to, you know, IKEA and spend £100 on that nice new wardrobe. No, this feels like it's something a bit more important than that, and something away from the material, although the material may play a part in it. If it is, it's going to be kind of big stuff. This is going to be involving things like houses and businesses and stuff like that, right? Kind of big ticket items, possibly. But for others of you, it feels like it's more energetic, right? So there's a way of looking at the Knight of Wands which says that he is very selfish, right? And that Cancer, you 2 years ago would have looked at that Knight of Wands energy and seen it as selfish. But if you look at it from a different perspective, because there's a neutrality in the tarot, right? And there's always a different perspective to look at these things. Then to a person who farms out their their validation to somebody else, but validate me harder, please, that sort of thing. Anybody who puts themselves first consistently is always going to look selfish, right? Now you've moved beyond that now, and you do know the importance of putting yourself first and all that sort of thing. There's a really important decision coming up for you to make, and I think that you've intuited it's coming anyway, Cancer, if I'm honest. But it's coming into land in October. And it does feel to me that if you sat in contemplation with it just for a few moments, you would see how all that you've experienced, and in fact everything that you've been, kind of rolling around and thinking about, because although Mercury retrograde only lasts for 2 weeks, so there's a shadow period on either side, and like I said right at the beginning, from the 6th of September, this one's been kicking the shit out of me. All of that stuff is putting you into a position where you can choose differently. We're back to this collapsing timelines again. I don't know if I spoke about it in September for you. I know I certainly did with a handful of signs, but it's like, it's not just, stopping the wheel, it's smashing the wheel up, as in the cycle, right? There's no way you go back to a previous cycle because you've learned it too fucking well now, and you're still pulling the wisdom out of that. But this isn't a flaky energy, this Knight of Wands here. It's a thoroughly present in the here and now. There is an opportunity coming, and I can take it because I spent this time working either on myself and the way that I choose to invest my energy and my care and my love and all those sorts of things, or in terms of your material. But where you don't have enough information yet, you will do by the end of October, and you will make this decision. And whether this decision has, a huge effect on your material standing or none, it doesn't really matter, because it feels like it will be life-changing, whichever way it happens, This is very, very intriguing indeed. I'm going to go to Vimeo now, so if any of this has resonated with you and you would like to go that little bit deeper on it, you can come and join me over there. Like I said, it's the first link in the description box. If not, then no shade. Just know that I'm incredibly proud of you, that this Cancer that you've done here, and I'm specifically looking at this, is brilliant. I just love the fact that people are doing their work right now, and you're not just doing your work, you're incredibly emboldened and strengthened and wiser, so much wiser as a result. And that's to be lauded, for sure. Okay, right. Know that I love you all very much, and I will see you soon.